Oh, this is going to be a good one.
It is.
Yeah.
We are going to be exploring how the food you eat impacts your brain.
Not just now.
Not just right now, but for years to come.
Long term.
Long term. We are dissecting a YouTube video from Glucose Goddess,
Love her.
biochemist Jessie Inchauspé. She really unpacks this complex topic in a fascinating way. Get ready for some surprising insights about the link between what you eat and things like
No, all the good stuff.
brain fog,
Mm.
irritability,
Mm.
and even serious conditions like Alzheimer's.
It really is fascinating. It challenges that idea that our brains are just these, like, mysterious, untouchable organs,
Right?
you know? Turns out, we have a lot more control over our brain health than we might think.
Yeah.
And it all starts with what we put on our plates.
I love it. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's talk about brain fog.
Yep.
You know, that feeling where your head's full of cotton wool and
Mm.
thinking clearly feels impossible.
We've all been there.
We've all been there. But now science is suggesting that glucose spikes might actually be the culprit.
It's not just a feeling.
Yeah.
There's research that shows if you start your day with a high glucose breakfast, think sugary cereal or pastries,
Oh, no.
yeah, that can actually impair your memory, your
Yeah.
attention, and cognitive performance. It's like hitting the snooze button on your brain power first thing in the morning.
Oh, wow. So it's not just an energy slump, it's affecting how our brain cells communicate.
Exactly. When your glucose levels spike, it slows down the speed at which information travels between neurons,
Right.
those tiny messengers in our brains. And when those signals are sluggish, we feel it as brain fog and difficulty focusing.
Okay, that's making me rethink my morning muffin. But wait, there's more. Right. In the video, Inchauspé also talks about the link between glucose and mood swings.
Oh, absolutely. Remember those hangry moments we've all experienced?
Oh, yeah.
Turns out there's a fascinating study that illustrates this perfectly. Researchers gave married couples voodoo dolls representing their spouses.
Voodoo dolls. That's a creative approach.
Right.
What did they find?
So they asked them to stick pins in the dolls whenever their partner annoyed them.
Oh.
Pretty intense
Yeah.
over the course of the study. The couples with steady glucose levels used fewer pins, but those who experienced frequent glucose dips, often after a spike, they were significantly more likely to go to town on those voodoo dolls.
Oh, my God.
Stab, stab, stab.
So basically, those glucose roller coasters can turn us into, well, not our best selves.
Precisely. This study really highlights the link between those glucose fluctuations and increased irritability, even aggression. So maybe next time you're feeling a bit snappy, check in with your blood sugar before you take it out on someone or your voodoo doll.
That's good advice. This is all making me wonder about the connection between what we eat and our mental health in general. Actually, this is something that really resonates with me personally. I've struggled with mental health challenges in the past, and stabilizing my glucose levels was a game changer.
You know, in the video, Inchauspé actually shares her own experiences with mental health too. She talks about how finding ways to keep her glucose stable was a turning point in her healing journey. It's a powerful reminder that what we eat can have a profound impact on how we feel mentally and emotionally.
It's true. It's like a fog lifted. I had more energy, less anxiety,
Yeah.
and just felt more grounded. But what's the science behind this?
Well, whenever our blood sugar spikes, it triggers inflammation.
Right.
And that inflammation doesn't just affect our bodies, it affects our brains too. The thing is, unlike other organs, our brains can't directly signal pain, so instead, they communicate distress through changes in our mood and mental state.
Interesting. So those mood swings, the anxiety, even feelings of depression could actually be our brain's way of saying, hey, something's off with my fuel supply.
That's a great way to put it. And research backs this up. There's a study that found people who developed insulin resistance, often due to repeated glucose spikes, had a significantly increased risk of major depression.
Wow, that's a pretty stark statistic. It really underscores that while food isn't the only factor in mental health, it's a powerful foundation for feeling our best.
Absolutely. And while there's still a lot we're learning about the intricate relationship between glucose and the brain, the evidence is mounting. Taking care of our glucose levels is key for both our short-term well-being and our long-term brain health.
Speaking of long-term brain health, I think it's time we address the elephant in the room, Alzheimer's disease. It's a scary reality that this disease is becoming increasingly common, even at younger ages. And the research is pointing to a potential link between Alzheimer's and, you guessed it, glucose.
You're right. In the video, Inchauspé explains how some scientists are even referring to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes or diabetes of the brain.
I've heard that term before, but I never really understood why.
Well, it's because the brains of people with Alzheimer's show many of the same signs as a body with type 2 diabetes,
Hmm.
insulin resistance, inflammation, and something called glycation.
Glycation, what's that?
Think of it like this. You know how sugar makes things sticky? Well,
Hmm.
glycation is kind of like that, but it's happening inside your body. When glucose molecules bind to proteins and fats in your bloodstream, it can create these sticky byproducts that can actually damage your cells over time, including brain cells.
Oh, wow. So those sugary treats we enjoy could be contributing to stickiness inside our brains. This is a pretty sobering thought. But what I'm hearing is that this connection between glucose and Alzheimer's isn't just about what happens when we're older, it's about how we're managing our glucose levels right now in midlife.
Exactly. A long-term study found that people with consistently high glucose levels between the ages of 35 and 50 had a significantly higher risk of developing Alzheimer's later in life.
So it's not just about preventing diabetes, it's about protecting our brains from this devastating disease. But the good news is, if I'm understanding this correctly, we're not powerless. We actually have some control over this.
You got it. This study, and others like it, suggest that Alzheimer's isn't entirely predetermined by our genes, our lifestyle choices, especially how we manage our glucose levels through diet and other habits, can play a major role in prevention. It's like Inchauspé says in the video, you are not your genes. You have the power to influence your health trajectory.
That's a powerful message. So it's not just about how we feel today, it's about protecting our brains for the long haul. Which brings us to the part I always look forward to. What can we actually do about this?
What's fascinating to me is how much control we really do have. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the information out there, but when you break it down, it's really about making small, conscious choices throughout the day, choices that add up to a big impact on our brain health.
It's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And those choices don't have to be complicated or restrictive. It's about finding what works for you and making gradual shifts that feel sustainable.
You know, it's like we're taking back control of our brain health. One savory breakfast, one veggie starter, one post-meal walk at a time.
I love that it's empowering, isn't it?
It is. It's like we're finally understanding the language our brains speak, and we're learning how to nourish them in a way that supports their optimal functioning, both now and in the future.
It's amazing how much power we have over our brain health through simple choices.
It really is. And it's never too late to start making those choices. Even small adjustments can have a ripple effect on our cognitive function, our mood, and our long-term brain health.
I completely agree. Thank you for joining us on this fascinating exploration of glucose in the brain. We hope you learned something new today, and remember, nourish your brain. It's the only one you've got.